it is awesome to have you here. I became a fan of your work watching your videos on Instagram, which is really talking about destigmatizing any kind of silence about mental health awareness and men who might feel like they have to keep it all inside, which can really cause a lot of issues, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And I think people in general, regardless of gender, deal with this. But your work really focuses on societal pressures that men face to kind of lock it all up. So thank you for being here. And I want to also have you do a little background about what is NAMI, as you're one of their ambassadors.
For sure. Well, number one, thank you for having me to talk about this stuff. It's exciting to have another opportunity with somebody who, gets what I'm talking about. And I love your work as well, and all of the things the many things you advocate for and champion. So just excited to be here. But yeah, I mean, a little bit about me. I think, my background is as a performer, a writer. I have a big comedy background. I was, a Just for Laughs new face several years ago, new face of comedy. And so I've been using comedy or a comedic sensibility for the past 3 years to focus on speaking to men and focusing on the inner lives and inner worlds of men. I definitely see myself as kind of just like I'm a straight white guy from the Midwest who was in a fraternity. That's how I actually kind of describe myself for the NAMI book that I'm a part of. And I kind of speak from that perspective to talk about things that, to a certain degree, within the bro code or whatever we've been conditioned to be and talk about in at least American society, it's not always great because it's personal, it's vulnerable, and those are things that are not promoted for men as much. And so that's a little bit about what I do. But NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and they are exactly that. They're an organization who works to kind of promote mental health and mental health awareness and getting people resources that they need. And I think a great message is the title of their book, which I have right here, and which I'm a part of, that just got released about a month ago. It's called "You Are Not Alone." And that's really the main thrust of the organization, is letting people know, hey, it's not a big deal to ask for help. It's actually beneficial. It doesn't show weakness. It doesn't show that you are lesser of a person. Every single person has a brain, and that means if they have a human brain, they have human issues. And so the more we face those with helpful tools, the faster we can find peace.
There's definitely been a shift, and I'm sure you can speak to this as well, from post-pandemic or pre-pandemic to post-pandemic. People are being more open about their struggles, whether it's on social media or even meeting someone at the grocery store. It seems like it's starting to break through a barrier of it's normal to have feelings that are not just happy, that are not just I'm okay, and it's getting safer to have the bigger conversations. And I've even noticed in the workspace, there's been more of a generational shift of boundaries. Like, I have boundaries. I might work for this company, but I'm going to learn my boundaries, what I'm capable of doing, and realize that I have a limit. And it seems like there's a shift going on, at least from what I'm seeing. I think there's lots of work to do, but it does seem like, for once, this idea that we all have to push and push and push and push and struggle and struggle and struggle and, just to get through the days is like turning. And I think it has a lot to do with the younger generations.
For sure. Yeah. I think a combination of a kind of worldview of information and connection that social media provides, and then the kind of forcibly kind of forced internal meditation that came along with COVID. We your life had to go on pause, the things you wanted, the things you were normally doing, and we were spending a little more time alone than we would otherwise, and that can be super helpful, especially when there's so many things distracting us or kind of commanding our attention, or we allow it to command our attention. And so there was this kind of unity in the fact that we were all in it together, that no one was immune to what was going on with COVID. And I think a lot more time at home, and there was some, of course, depression. We all went through a lot of those things. And so there's this whole booming industry now. And I think it's a beautiful thing, because it's the human experience is not just one perspective, not just one emotion, and it shouldn't be. It's more beautiful having the lows and the highs, because then you can appreciate both of them.
Absolutely. It's like the myriad of the human condition. And I remember in college, I had a professor, it was a contemplative psychology, and it stayed with me for all these years later. And he said, emotions are not supposed to be black and white. He said they're a rainbow, and you're allowed to process them and feel them. And it was very much a Buddhist belief, but I kept it, with myself, because it said, if you have happiness, then you don't know sadness. And without sadness, you don't really know happiness. So you have to live through it. You talk about destigmatizing, especially after, there was a boom in the mental health industry with counselors, psychologists doing this on Zoom, all of those things. For men, and particularly for what you cover, do you think there's any real significant shift forward that's happening for men being more apt to get help? Because, the stats better than I do, but I have read that suicide, the numbers tend to shift for men having the higher suicide rates.
Yeah, I mean, men definitely have more suicide rates. Men, of course, are, statistically more violent. Men are doing a lot more harmful things physically, for sure, to themselves and other people. I think that's a result of the conditioning that men cannot show weakness, which is many times not actual weakness. It's just a kind of a perverted version of what weakness looks like, and that is vulnerability, a connection with themselves, and a willingness to face the fact that they cannot do everything. And so I think what the positives I've seen about the kind of shift the past couple of years has definitely been that going to therapy is talked about more, and it's becoming cool. Frankly, that is what helps. That I've seen men in my life be more open to the possibility of going to therapy. I have referred my therapist or my therapist's, colleagues to so many more of my friends and family than I had years ago. And to be honest, I had done some therapy in years before, but I did not really dive into like a weekly session and a commitment to that until 2 years ago. So that's even my own, thing. Like I was in touch with my emotions. I thought of myself as a very empathetic person, but it took, I think, a lot of the pressures and stressors and depression of COVID to finally go, okay, I need extra help here. And it has been completely transformational in every way. And I can't speak to it any more positively.